The Boys is over, and I need to know if you're in the group that loved it or felt cheated. The fate of Homelander and Butcher broke the internet for a reason that almost nobody noticed. We waited 7 years for this moment, and honestly, the internet is torn between hate and relief. Today, I'm going to tell you why Homelander's fate was the best and worst thing about this finale. Before we talk about the fight everyone waited 7 years for, we need to talk about how the show almost ruined everything in the first 5 minutes. Frenchie's funeral. What was supposed to be an emotional goodbye became a joke. Another thing that didn't make much sense was Frenchie keeping his will this whole time, right? He must have made it when he thought he was going to be killed. Only he wrote a text including Hughie and MM. But those two were also going to be executed. Okay, but that's the least of it. The focus of this funeral was to show that Kimiko could activate her powers. That's why they did that there. She just needed a little bit of anger. I'll get into that subject, but first I want to focus on the one thing that annoyed me the most in this entire episode. Eric Kripke simply threw Gen V in the trash. Marie could have solved the show, but they preferred giving Soldier Boy's power to Kimiko. Does it make sense? Zero. It was a total waste of the Gen V crew, and the feeling that remains is that Gen V ultimately served no purpose for the main show. Sage got dumb. It's like I said before, Kimiko only activates her powers if she's angry, just like Soldier Boy. That's how Sage and Butcher managed to make Kimiko's powers activate. First, I have to make it clear to you guys that I found the idea of the power shaking the ground, then releasing the blast, really cool. But man, the whole thing of Sage losing her powers is completely unnecessary. The show never knew how to handle Sage. Seriously, you watching right now never saw Sage as smart. No, to me, Sage was just like any normal person. Normal, like average, with average intelligence, okay? They said she was the smartest of them all, but she never did anything all that smart. What kind of plans are those, man? Even this idea of making Kimiko use her powers was monumentally stupid. When did Sage decide she wouldn't be smart anymore? At what point did we see Sage being smart? She was so sad about her plan going wrong that she decided to get dumb. That's it. And man, she got really dumb. It makes absolutely no sense for her intelligence to completely vanish if she loses her powers. It could decrease, but her becoming an idiot? No, that doesn't fly. Man, I can only think of two options for Sage becoming dumber than normal and kind of an idiot. First, her brain is still damaged because of the lobotomization, without powers, without a healing factor. Agreed? It could be that the injuries returned. Second, her powers created a network of connections beyond the human average. That made her mega smart. Makes sense. So the moment her power was gone, that connection ended. All that was left was her normal brain, which apparently is, like, pretty dumb. She was a dumbass who got super smart. Anyway, that was Sage's ending. She was sad, frustrated for being smart, and now she's happy being dumb. But if we stop to think about it, she probably decided to end it to escape all this madness.
Elon Musk's visit? Well, an Elon Musk parody showed up in this last episode. You guys noticed, right? The billionaire astronaut? This billionaire arrived there with some weird ideas and got taken to space by Homelander. Man, the way he dresses is exactly like when Elon Musk got involved with Trump at the White House. And there's also the joke with Homelander taking him to space so nobody has any doubt he's an Elon Musk parody. Astronaut, SpaceX, right? It's no secret to anyone that Eric Kripke, the producer, has always satirized Trump, mainly with Homelander's rise to power. It's right there, man, like it's a Trump satire. And Elon Musk too. Do you guys remember the goat that Marie Moreau blew up in Gen V? Its name was Elon Musk. Yeah, that was the satire the show decided to do. Well, still in the White House, we have the Deep showing up again to kiss Homelander's ass, bro. The biggest bootlicker in history. And guys, honestly, the guy was humiliated as hell the entire show. Homelander says he only kept him alive so he could see how useless he is. That's worse than dying.
That was one of the best scenes of the whole season. He's a complete crybaby. Finally, a serious conversation that shows what the character thinks. It's not just all those faces and grimaces Homelander kept making, you know? Homelander was honest there. But the ironic thing about all this, man, is that Homelander has done things just as bad or worse than the Deep. Have you guys stopped to think about that? Homelander also abused a person. Homelander killed more innocents than the Deep and also spent time crying in corners. The two aren't that different. See? I think Homelander needs the Deep to see that there's a guy dumber than him. I think what really sets them apart is Homelander's power and his paranoia. Other than that, bro, they're both scumbags all the same. If you're a real fan and don't want the journey to end here, subscribe to the channel now. I'll be covering every spin-off and every detail of this universe. If you like honest analysis, your place is here. Already clicked? Then let's get to what matters, the White House invasion. Well, the boys invaded the White House with the same ease I walk from one room to another. Man, that's ridiculous, really. The guys walking around the White House with nobody on them? Seriously. It's incredible how this keeps happening in this 5th season. In the early seasons, they needed to find a guy capable of getting into the Seven's tower. Now they have a free pass to enter anywhere. They walked into Vought in the other episode without any plan. And guys, nobody walks into the White House that easily. You just don't, okay? I know they tried to make a little joke with the tunnels used for shady purposes in the show, but let's be honest. The White House has thousands of people involved in security. The United States Secret Service has a ton of people. And another detail. O-Father could have set up a more secure system to protect the tunnel. Instead of one guy with a machine gun, man, he could have put a soup there. I don't know, some psychics and sniffers, you know? With so many psychic soups they've shown, they could have had at least 2 or 3 protecting the White House. Agree with me on this one? It was a slip-up, right?
I want to see what you guys are going to say about this one. I don't know, I just thought that. And in this scene, we have the worst detail of all, which is false advertising. The last poster showed Butcher walking alone into the White House. It was a scene very similar to the comics. Besides Homelander, there were several soups flying in this poster. In the show, there was almost nobody. The show promised way more than it delivered. There was also a poster of Homelander in space, looking at the explosion trail on Earth. There was another poster with Butcher walking through the rubble and the Vought building collapsed in the background. None of that appeared in the show? So then it's no use complaining that fans are being harsh. Realize that the fans are right to complain about this. You build up the hype sky high and don't deliver exactly what you promised.
Ashley betrays Homelander, and Ashley showed up to free the boys. Loved it so much. It was all very fast, agree with me? But it didn't feel forced. At least I didn't think so. Ashley had been unhappy with Homelander for a long time. Man, it was about time this happened. I know she agreed to stay by his side and took advantage of that to stay in power and not get killed, but ever since the day Homelander started with this idea of being a god, Ashley turned a blind eye to it, right? And she knew that at any moment he could snap and kill her. Man, that was enough. That was definitely gonna happen. If he was God, there was no reason to have a president in the country, right? Well, it's not the first time Starlight faces the Deep. There are 2 counters there, right? A clash we always want to see. And once again, she showed she's stronger than him. What I didn't like about this scene, man, is that the script forgets that the Deep abused Starlight, man. She was supposed to have hatred for him, and this hate doesn't show in her eyes. See, in the same way Butcher hates Homelander, that had to show up in the series. It had to be explicit all the time, man. The guy was a jerk to her the whole time, full time. This episode lacked hate. Another thing that makes absolutely no sense is the Deep dying to an octopus. Guys, my brother, what octopus is that? A meta-human octopus? Are there sea monsters in the boys' universe? Ever since the Deep was exiled in the sea, man, I kept thinking about this, right? Is there a Kraken? The guy is a soup, takes bullets to the chest. In theory, he'd be capable of ripping a shark apart with his hands. He's way more powerful than a fish. I agree it's a cartilaginous being. Couldn't he rip off that tentacle of his? Couldn't he swim super fast towards the beach? He in the sand? He wasn't that far from the sand there, man. The kind of thing we have to ignore. Patience. But but these are details that should be important for the composition of the scene. And hey, very few people notice this, but what if I told you that the Deep's popcorn bucket that showed up episodes ago was foreshadowing for his death? Notice that he died in the exact same position as his head is on the collectible popcorn bucket.
Hughie and MM versus O-Father. Guys, O-Father's death made more sense than the Deep's death. That belt MM put in his mouth was made to withstand O-Father's screams. You know, it was made to... I laughed my ass off at this scene, okay? I just had one doubt. In theory, if the scream was too strong, shouldn't he shoot that gag forward? Is MM strong enough to hold back O-Father's scream? Okay, but let's ignore this minor detail because whatever, it might be a silly thing. What catches my attention the most here, man, is that this gag was a gift from Ashley. In theory, O-Father was supposed to scream at that moment. That, I know very well you get it. And as you saw, the gag works. It withstands his screams. It held back O-Father's scream, which makes me think that maybe Ashley was trying to kill the guy. Because think about it with me. Think. The moment he was going to scream, his head would explode. Or did he have a scream for special moments? In a way, this even reminds me of when Black Bolt was killed by Wanda in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Well, after several promises, Homelander finally lost his mind. Went crazy. Only took 5 seasons, okay? The guy was ready to kill anyone who disagreed with him. It would be total genocide. If necessary, he would kill everyone and live alone on Earth. He was ready for that. It wasn't Homelander wanting to be accepted by society anymore. He was truly ready to sacrifice all of humanity if necessary. And that's when Butcher arrives with Kimiko. And it's curious to see that Butcher had the strength to face Homelander from the start. See? He was extremely strong. Then Ryan arrived, who managed to help a lot in the fight. He was kind of like a Robin, right guys? I liked the choreography, the blows. I liked the actors in this scene. I liked this fight a lot. It was a truly worthy season finale scene. The only problem is that it's a repeat fight. We saw the same thing in season 3. And there, man, even with Hughie and Butcher holding Homelander down, he managed to escape. But if we analyze the 2 fights, Butcher is much stronger than in the previous fight, besides having those tentacles of his, right? And he caught the guy flying all the time, something he couldn't do before, right? And Ryan is stronger than Hughie. I even started to doubt if Butcher could handle Homelander on his own, but if you pay attention, you'll see that Homelander's punch hurt Butcher much more than the reverse. A punch from him kept throwing Butcher to the ground the whole time. So in terms of strength, not even with Ryan's help could they win. Homelander really is much stronger than the 2 of them. The only thing that doesn't make much sense was Homelander ignoring Kimiko. Just before Ryan got into the fight, Kimiko was lying on the ground. In the very first episode of the series, man, Homelander ripped Kimiko in half in seconds. Why didn't he finish her off right away? Why couldn't he cut Butcher in half? All of this was a bit vague.
Not to mention, the fight ignores his super speed. In Frenchie's lab, it took him seconds to get to the room. Microseconds. Where's that speed? It's the kind of thing we're not going to get an answer to. Because what I mean is this. If it were you writing the script of how Homelander could beat all of the 7, I'm sure you would activate all the superpowers. Homelander's entire superpower package. But in the script, they didn't use that, you know? And I know a lot of people are pissed off at the show, that started this episode hating everything. But the scene itself wasn't bad, okay? If you focus on the micro problems, for sure you'll find everything to be crap. You're gonna have a bunch of little problems there, if you focus on the micro problems. But I can do that easily with Avengers Endgame. Doctor Strange saw more than 14 million possibilities, and only 1 was capable of killing Thanos. That is pure plot convenience juice for the script to work, guys. And we don't complain about it. If you stop to think about it, my brother, the guy controlled time. He could have seen way more possibilities until he found one that worked. Man, Doctor Strange could have gone to another dimension, hidden there until he found a way to kill Thanos, and gone back in time to apply that option. So if we focus on micro script problems, you're gonna find several, see? It's just that we tend to do that in the last episode. We like doing that, finding problems. I can do that with the entire Avengers Endgame movie if I want. But it's like I said, what bothers me most about this The Boys finale is the journey here. The fight was awesome, and much better than the season finales of several recent shows. Here the show delivered what it needed regarding Butcher and Homelander. It gave me relief to see what happened there. You can't compare it, for example, with Game of Thrones.
Well, after Kimiko uses her powers on Homelander, they all lose their powers. It was clear that they were in front of Kimiko, right? The three of them. And one detail, her blast isn't as powerful as Soldier Boy's. It didn't even destroy the room, right? Soldier Boy's destroyed everything. But it worked. She took away everyone's powers there. And then happened exactly what I've been saying since season 4, right? Homelander and Butcher lost their powers and fought there on equal footing in a 1v1. It's human to human, right? Without any powers. I just didn't expect Homelander to be such a huge piece of shit. Like a really, really huge piece of shit, right? Man, my brother, the guy without his powers is a worm. You can see the difference between him and Butcher, right? Butcher was always a tough guy, totally badass. Homelander was just like a spoiled child, that's all. He was truly a giant crybaby. And when he felt he could die, my brother, then he got desperate. The guy humiliated himself more than the Deep so he wouldn't be killed. And I really enjoyed every punch Butcher threw at Homelander, man. Imagine how long Butcher waited to do this, to get to this point. Man, you want to know a person? Give them power. Isn't that it? You want to see what they are capable of? Take away everything they have. Butcher lost everything in life and stayed strong until the end. Homelander lost his powers and humiliated himself. There was zero character in him, zero, no core values to keep him standing. I really thought this fight was going to happen, but Homelander didn't even stand a chance, man, zero. In this scene, both actors delivered so much. I really loved this ending, the way Homelander died. I really liked it, man.
Seeing Homelander without powers was a relief. The guy humiliated himself more than the Deep. He was just a spoiled child. And speaking of Homelander and Butcher, if you want to have these two on your shelf to remember this epic rivalry, I set aside here on YouTube Shopping, it's popping up down here on the screen, and in the Amazon links in the description, the best Funko Pops and action figures of Homelander and Butcher. There's also the original comic book, issue 71, that inspired this ending. Secure yours through the channel's link to support us in continuing to bring you this content. Stan Edgar is back. Well, in the midst of the chaos, Stan Edgar returned and took command of Vought. It's what I said in the other reviews. He was going to come back and keep Vought in the game, just like James Stillwell does in the comics. Man, I think Stan Edgar deserved a little more screen time. Not just now in this episode, but I mean in the season as a whole. To me, having him in Sage's place would make much more sense. By the way, I think he's smarter than Sage without any power. I thought it also lacked showing Samir and Zoe. Stan Edgar is one of the strongest characters on the show. He is the embodiment of Vought, just like James Stillwell. He's one of the characters that I think was wasted, you know? And it also lacked his relationship with Hughie, right? Which would be like a way for Hughie to put Vought in check. Probably Stan Edgar should return in some spin-off. Maybe in The Boys Mexico, okay? Or maybe in something new involving the Gen V crew. By the way, have you stopped to think about it? Marie Moreau went from the most powerful soup to a coyote, you know? A coyote who smuggles people across the border. But anyway, I think they could return in this spin-off. There's a window for that, right? And I believe the Gen V crew will play the role of the boys in the future. But I'll bring that to you in another video. Now, answer me something. Honestly, what about MM? Didn't he say that if Stan Edgar returned to power, he would kill Edgar himself? Yeah, a lot of things changed there, right? But you know who didn't care about Stan Edgar being in power? Butcher. And now we are going to talk about a script problem that can't be ignored.
In the end, Butcher was chilling. He was calm, he was ready to live with Ryan like a normal guy. He didn't have hatred for Soups. He was enjoying life. It was cool up to that point. Only Ryan didn't want to live with him. Ryan is a very poorly produced character. Seriously, man. Like, he boils down to hating both fathers. That's it. That's his core. Man, but now it's too late to complain. Anyway, what was I saying? Butcher was chilling there, right? And then Ryan wanted nothing to do with him anymore, and he got kind of sad, but moved on until he sees Terror dead on the ground. That scene was sad. Terror was just a doggy, an elderly doggy that he knew could die at any moment. And even so, that was reason enough for him to furrow his brow, grab the virus, and plan to kill every soup in the world, even his friends. Come on, man. Butcher's hatred against soups is part of the character. We know that, I know that, you know that too. But the direction the show took pulled him off that path. Here for the whole season and made Butcher soften up, right, and put that stuff aside. So the show already built this up for us to be able to adapt issue 71 of the Boys comic, right? Which is when Hughie kills Butcher. They had to force Terror's death as motivation for Butcher. That is totally forced. The only things that made him a human guy left him, right? Ryan and Terror. Clearly that's what happened, guys. There was no reason to make Butcher continue with this out-of-nowhere stuff in the show. He was resolved. We saw it happen. And besides, even if Ryan doesn't like him, man, even with Terror having died, the closest person to him is Hughie. He's what the guy has for family. The guy is his friend. He's almost a brother, right? But no, the dog died and he went after killing all the soups.
Well, Butcher entered the Sevens building with the same ease they entered the White House. 0 guards, 0 people in the building. Total ease. Hughie goes in there with the same ease too, man. Impressive stuff. Impressive. But come on, looks like there were only a couple of small-time guards for the entire building. Entire. No cameras, nothing. But let's get to what matters. Suspension of disbelief engaged. This scene was inspired by the comics from issue 71. Okay, only in the comics, the weight of this fight is much greater. In the show, everything happens way too fast. I think this is the biggest problem of the season finale, of the entire series finale. The show didn't use time to develop the main plot. That's why I agree with whoever is complaining that maybe Butcher didn't have to die. Agree? If they changed the show's story so much compared to the comics, I think they could do a different ending for Butcher too. They already changed Butcher's trajectory in the show, so change the ending too. Because we grew fond of him, right man? We got attached to the guy. So we realized the guy didn't need to die. But what did you think of Butcher's death? Keep commenting down below.
I have to be honest. I thought there were many flaws in this season. In the whole show, okay? There were horrible episodes. In fact, I brought up several problems from this finale episode too. But the majority, man, was a result of what came before. In the scenario we had, this episode still managed to deliver a cool ending. Some characters were sidelined, fine. But the main ones managed to get a satisfactory ending. Kimiko went to France, and apparently she became more like who she was at the beginning of the show. She's mourning, so there's no reason to be smiling. She doesn't have to be smiling, right, in the show. Kimiko spent the whole show dealing with life's problems, and in the end, ended up without Frenchie. Maybe you think that's good, right? Because she gained a new perspective on life. She put her hatred aside, and even got a dog she wanted to have with Frenchie. Cool, but it's still the saddest scenario in the team. Okay, MM got married again. Really awesome. What he cherished most in life was his family, and he finally got it. It's the ending he deserved. Regardless of whether it's the same as the comics or not, he deserved this ending. I think for the show's MM, this was the best ending. And like I said, man, the ending was good, you know? But what they did with MM in the show was cowardice. The guy was sidelined, didn't have one decent interaction with his family. If there were scenes of him talking with his wife, with his daughter, man, this ending would be way cooler.
Hughie is going to have a normal life. He has his own AV shop, which is something he knew how to do, right? Hughie already worked with that. So, all right, it was cool. Starlight is pregnant, and now she's going to have a daughter named Robin. And we close a cycle in Hughie's life. His girlfriend who died was named Robin. Now his daughter who is going to be born, right, is going to be named Robin. Cool. So it came full circle. This ending for Hughie is perhaps the best thing about this entire season. It gave us a huge relief. It's a super satisfactory ending that shows what maybe the series has forgotten sometimes. Hughie is a good guy. Kind of an innocent guy maybe, right? I think that's worth a lot in a world where there are only scumbags. But talking about the show as a whole, my brother, this show is absolutely top tier. there's nothing to say. It's not because of a few bad episodes that the show became bad, you know? I think it would be much worse if the show was good and suddenly the ending was crap. The ending wasn't crap, man. I'm giving my opinion, okay? Yeah, the ending, if you take out these micro problems, these loose ends, it's not because it has a loose end that it destroys the relief we had, right? Seeing what we wanted to see since the beginning, which was Homelander humiliating himself. I just didn't want to see Butcher die, that's all. To me, that was a slip-up. But other than that, man, seeing Hughie happy, Starlight happy and pregnant, man, it's a very cool ending. Being very honest with you guys, this show easily gets a solid 9 out of 10. It was, overall, an excellent production that had some stumbles along the way, and not a bad show that got it right once in a while. At least, that's how I evaluate this journey.
But now I really want to know your opinion. What did you think of this ending, and the show as a whole? And look, try not to focus only on the micro views, or those minor script errors. I want to know your macro view. We followed this story together for several years. Tell the truth down below. Did you enjoy this whole trajectory? But now I want your truth, without a filter. Was this ending a 10 out of 10, or did the show choke at the last minute? Comment down below if you agree with Homelander's fate, or if he should have had an even worse fate, or leave your rating for the whole show. I'll be reading and replying to the best comments. Don't forget to check out the collector's items down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, and bye.